Very good.
So I guess Gene is not coming. I didn't hear from him, but I guess we'll start the CIP committee meeting. My name is Tim Debray. I'm the select board chair.
I'm Maureen Campiola. I'm just a community member.
Robert Kelly, Budget Committee.
Charlene Anderson, Planning Board Representative.
And Megan Sabasco, School Board Rep.
And so I think, I guess a couple of things I think we just need to cover first is who would be the chair of this committee for this session? I'm gonna rely upon you, Megan, a lot, and when Jean comes in, because you guys are the only returning members.
Returning member from
Yeah.
previous years.
Got some experience.
So it was actually typically led by the town administrator. So
Okay.
in both years, the town administrator, both our interim and the previous town administrator, typically facilitated a lot of the meetings. I believe it was discussed last year if it's truly a Board of Selectmen committee, or if it's a planning board committee, and kind of where it fell of who the umbrella it fell under. So that was brought up last year, because I think it initiated later, because I think one group was waiting for another. So I don't know if that was ever settled, if it was.
It was settled that it would be the select board.
Okay. So
For
it's a
this year.
select board committee. And again, it was typically facilitated, a lot of the things were done by, I think Mr. Sterndale was here a long time, and I think kind of just ran it a little bit because of his knowledge, and he was here for so many years. So I think
Right.
that's why. I'm not sure, I don't know if that's how it has to be, but that's how it was run previously.
So is there no plan to have Ellen here?
No, I thought she was going to be here as
Okay.
well,
All right.
but I know her car was not in the parking lot either, so.
I mean, typically in the past, because I've been on the CIP in the past, and typically in the past, it's the town administrator reaches out to all the departments to get the information from the CIP. Those are then submitted to us to review. It's up to us whether or not we would like to meet with each department and go over those or not, or if we have questions. That's some of the ways that we handled it in the past.
So those sheets that were completed?
Those sheets get filled out, we
Okay.
review them. If we have questions, we can invite them to, if we want to invite them to the departments, to the CIP to answer any questions, get clarification, and such. And then, put together the task lists, update the demographic data, if there's updated data.
Okay. And then what's the process, I guess, for approving the CIP? The CIP just, because there's meeting minutes, but there's not a whole lot of detail in the historic meeting minutes?
In the last couple of years, so I was on it the previous 2 years, and so the school runs a little differently because the school board goes through the reviews from our administration and then determines what we'd like to see on the CIP. And then it has been that in this discussion that we have looked at leveling out the years. So for example, recommending that, if there's a lot of spending suggested for 2025, that can those projects be shifted different years? So the point is to kind of level fund the budget so you don't have giant spikes. So that has been our role the last 2 years, really looking at it and making recommendations, and then ultimately at the end kind of approving it and writing it up for the town report.
Okay.
Is that what?
Yeah, and I mean, copies of this should go back to all of the planning board should get a copy of
So
the final.
does the planning board not approve, I guess, because some towns the planning board is actually the final stamp of approval for the CIP?
Yeah, no, there's no really approval of the CIP.
Okay.
What the planning board does is then take that, and that helps kind of formulate whether or not impact fees might be needed for certain areas. But it's more of a kind of used as as we start to kind of look at planning, master plan, that kind of stuff, what that infrastructure needs are, and and then the school board would get a final copy, and the department heads would get a final copy as well.
Are you working on the master plan?
So our master plan, no, our master plan needs to be updated. It's older than 6 years. The way that we're going to try to address it is chapter by chapter, because to do a whole revamp, we would need some funding to help put that together, to do updates on it and stuff, so we'll do it chapter by chapter. But right now, for the last couple of years, we've been so swamped with caseloads, we can't do planning, unfortunately.
I do know the other thing, I'm not sure if everyone's looked at minutes, last year we did vote in the capital improvement committee to have the, increase the dollar amount for an item that goes in the capital improvement plan. It used to be $5,000, and it was discussed with inflation last year that it would be a minimum of a $10,000 spend, and that anything less than that really would fall somewhere else. Whether it was,
Okay.
budgeted or, but it was the sense that if these are really large capital improvements, that if it was a $6,000 item, that it doesn't really fit in the plan. So we did vote to change that last year. It doesn't really stay at, obviously this is the RSA, but that was what we voted on last year.
And then how many meetings would the committee typically have? 3?
I think we had 3.
Yeah, it's not many.
We had an initial, I will share that the school has not received any new CIP documents. We do have a new superintendent and a new business administrator. So we have not really discussed any of these items. We have had some changes that have had to be done in the school for building. So it may look a little different from the school probably at our next meeting. So I don't have much updated information for that. But this plan ultimately shouldn't really change a significant amount. That's kind of the goal, is that it's pretty static, and just you add things as it comes up in the new year, the 6th year.
I think what would be helpful, for us to kind of get started is this chart, the kind of the master chart is one to go back to the town administrator and the school board, say, okay, of the 2023, like what did get approved, so is there anything in here that's going to get shifted? And then also, and then I think just to get those forms from, if the town administrator can get them out to the department heads, and then to the school board to just get those updated. And then I think, again, once we get all of those together, then that would be a good time to meet again, review them. Do we have questions? Do we need clarification? Do we want folks to come back in? Kind of thing.
Okay, so how does the facilities assessment report, how does this plug into this then?
I think the facilities assessment report would be, so that was recommendations that were done by the facilities team, right?
Yep.
Which then would go to the Board of Selectmen to make a decision, or to make some decisions about how are they gonna prioritize that, and then also getting together some quotes, if they wanna put it within 6 years. If there's something in there that,
Or
they
10
don't,
years
but-
out?
Yeah, so I think it falls back onto the Board of Selectmen
Okay,
to make some decisions.
okay, so we don't decide on any of this stuff?
No,
make
no,
recommendations
that's
to it or
gonna come
anything.
down to what they wanna put forward first, where they see the urgencies based on the recommendations.
And so what we decided at our last meeting was that there was the $40,000 in the warrant article that went towards facilities person, is to try to find somebody to fill that role. Whether it be somebody from the outside or using our contracted cleaning services that actually offers that type of services, and have them work with us through that report and really kind of figure out, okay, what would the potential costs be, and what, should you prioritize? I think right now the health and safety for the folks working and coming into this building is a little bit of our top priority, because the back of the building is a mess. And then space concerns in this building are also a concern. So one of the things that the rec was proposing to do was to move into this space and us move the conference room in the back. Well, if we recommend to bust out the back of the building, well, would that change how all that would work? So rather than spending money and then having to cut into everything that you just finished, so I think we just need to, so it comes back to their recommendation was to, again, put somebody into that role to help us figure out what are the costs, potential costs for each thing, which would then kind of lead back to how to prioritize each year to keep, like you said, Megan, the kind of the level spending if at all possible, so there's no spikes. It's gonna be spikes.
So would you foresee that for this CIP year, there might not be something, even though we have that facilities report, you're still gonna hire someone, so some of that information probably won't go in the CIP this year?
I wouldn't think, we definitely will not have any numbers.
Yeah.
So I guess, like I said, you could earmark a spot for it, but there's not gonna be a dollar amount associated with it.
Right, right.
And, just real quick, you know how you say the impact fees, you can only use them like for rec or fire, stuff like that? Well, if the rec was going to move to the back, you couldn't use impact fees to help build, you can't.
So those impact fees are for one single purpose, so they can't just be used by the rec to do other things. So the purpose of the impact fees was for the Marston property. So that's the impact fees collected go to that.
Only
it's for-
that,
Or new building.
Or new building.
or a new building, not to expand anything though?
Well, that would
Because-
probably be more of a renovation, and so it probably.
The police
impact fees.
department would be considered potentially an expansion if they try to expand.
But you're not allowed to use
There's
impact fees for
no-
police right now.
Well, no, it's police,
They do.
No.
No, it's
No, there's no
fire.
police, no.
So that
Fire,
would be a,
Yeah,
but
fire rec at
that's a
school.
lengthy
It's
process.
just
to-
fire, school, and
Rec,
rec right
yeah.
now.
To create a new impact fee, though, is a lengthy
It
process.
goes to
Like-
the voters. So usually the way it would happen is like, so the planning board and the select board, a few years ago, met with the then chief of the police department, and asked if there was any future, and there wasn't, so there was, no decision there was no need to do the impact fees. If the chief, things can change. If the chief says, you know what, yeah, we need a new fire station, then the chief may come and say, all right, this is what we want. And so it justifies impact fees, then that goes to the voters to then decide if it's accepted or not. And so not until the voters vote on it can the impact fees, the process start. So it takes, good,
Because there's there's
yeah.
a lot
There
of
needs
things.
to be justification to do it and stuff, so.
welcome, Gene.
Thank you. Fool me, 5:30 meeting.
So just to catch you up real quick, we're just kind of just chatting about, because it's just you and Megan that have served on this committee in the past couple of years. Charlene's served on it before, but for the rest of us, we're kind of new to this process. It's just kind of figuring out what the timeline of events is going to be, who's going to be involved. Charlotte has agreed to, or potentially be involved, but again, I'm not sure if there's flexibility in that, if we can have free public, I have no problem. I'd prefer to have as many people involved that want to be involved and put the effort in.
Also, I'm happy to join, or if you want to call on the facilities committee to, come and make a presentation because you have questions, I'd be happy to do that too, whatever works.
Which committee?
The facilities committee?
Facilities.
Oh, facility, yeah.
I don't think that is there, I don't even know if the RSA's call out how many community members.
Well, our,
It doesn't specify.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
how many? It just
No, it has
requires.
mandatories and community members on, I think it says, and others.
So I think if we want to appoint, if Charlotte wants to be, we could appoint her tonight.
yeah,
Yep.
That'd be great.
come on up.
Do I need to submit anything?
You probably should do something with the town after the
Officially.
fact.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, but it's not like you're voting on anything, so
Take it out.
I think tonight you can sit.
Okay,
Do you want to email Kelly,
super.
Yeah,
Kelly and Ellen?
no, just let the,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
think she suspects. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question that probably Charlene you can answer, or Jean. So in looking at this, right, and I see the different funding sources, there's nothing on here that stipulates or says impact fees were used for any of this or would be used for any of this.
Right.
Would you normally put that in here if impact fees were going to be used for something
More of those sheets like she's.
on the capital improvement plan?
You know, I think we have in the past, noted that,
This is not what I have.
I'd have to go back and look.
Like, 'cause I think some of them say like warrant article.
Yeah.
Bond.
Right, but I don't know if
operating
that
budget.
means, if that's coming out of impact or if it's just a warrant article in general,
No, I think it would
because,
just be the warrant article.
right, that's what I thought too.
It would be nice information to have what was being used.
Right, exactly.
The other thing that's difficult with impact fees is part of the process of using impact fees. So you may estimate how many impact fees, but it's collected based on how many homes are built, right? So it's
Right.
not,
Well, the planning board
Except
set
they know
rate,
that. The
right?
planning
it's a
board,
rate, but if there's 5 houses built or if there's 50 houses built, there's a different amount of money
Right.
to then access for impact fees. So maybe a portion could be, but you would never be able to know in a planning document like this how much could come from impact fees
I guess I'm
versus-
not saying necessarily, I'm not looking for a hard dollar figure. What I'm looking for is identifying where
Which ones would use.
Right.
where the potential to use impact fees would be, not necessarily a dollar amount, just we think we could access impact fees to do this.
And
Happens
just-
for
Right.
research. yeah.
Exactly.
Just so you know, so on the fire impact fees, the fire impact fees were used for, the purpose of those impact fees were to build the fire station.
yep.
We've since paid that loan off. So right now, what the planning board is having to do is to, those impact fees, so based on what comes back in from the fire department, to find out from the fire department, is there any more use for those impact fees? And if not, those impact fees need to be kind of like canceled out,
Returned.
returned,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
returned. But dissolved, the impact fees for the fire would be dissolved because the loan was paid off.
I see.
Those impact fees were actually, I just, for the heck of it, did an analysis. They were actually paying a third of the loan, the impact fees were over the course of the years, averaged out. But, so, the fire, if you could say that, because I don't think that the fire department's talking about any big expansion or anything, or rebuilding, but those impact fees are probably gonna go away, probably in the next 12 months or so, unless something else comes back.
But they couldn't be used for some, like, there's issues right
Can't
now.
be used for like fire trucks.
No, but they can't be used for the building is not, I wouldn't say in disrepair, but the gutters need to be replaced, the doors need to
No,
be replaced,
it was, no, it was
Just for the building.
purpose
It was
of the
just to
building
build
the
it.
fire station.
And you can't take whatever might be left over and say, well, the school has a need.
No, that goes back to.
goes- it has to be
whoever was
identified.
Whoever is living in the house, of the house that was charged.
Yep.
It goes back
Back
to.
to-
Whoever owns the house.
Yes.
Right, whoever
Yes.
owns it currently.
Oh, renting, look at that check.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the purpose was, I understand impact fees was paying some of them, but you had to factor in the interest on the loan, you know what I mean, the interest, because we were just paying the bank the money, that was the whole purpose of paying it off, right?
Right.
To give her the interest payment, so you had to factor that in there too. I understand what you're saying, like, oh, we should just left them and let the impact fees pay for everything, meanwhile, we're paying interest on it, you know what I mean? So I didn't know if that was a factor.
It was.
I didn't realize the impact fees was part of the formula when I voted to pay the debt off, you know?
Yeah, if you
We
look at
didn't have to
the,
say, was that something we voted for, though? Or
It was a warrant article.
yeah.
There was a warrant article
Yeah.
last year, wasn't it,
Yeah.
last year?
Yeah, it was to pay off the fire department loan and for the Mulligan Forest. Now, there were no impact fees for Mulligan Forest, right? Not, okay, so that was a good deal, paying it off.
Yeah.
And I just, because we were having a discussion about this the other day, and so I don't know if I'm right about this or wrong about this. So impact fees is the purview of the planning board, correct?
No, the people, so the.
Like, you guys determine that, and then it goes for approval,
So
or how does
the
that work?
planning board will propose the impact fees.
Yeah.
The people, it goes to town meeting.
Okay.
And the people vote.
Okay,
Whether or
so,
not to.
so you
approve
guys
it.
are the overseers of, here's where we think we could utilize them, and then you.
Based on where we're seeing development, based
Okay.
on where we're seeing needs.
That's what I
based
thought. I
on-
thought it
yeah,
was-
It's, yeah.
And
this
that
is-
includes the
this is
school.
Yeah, and this is part of the equation in helping to determine.
Sure.
So then
Yeah,
next year,
okay,
for
that makes sense.
example, if the planning board's looking at impact fees and let's say, we're looking at the facilities here and we know that the police department is not a good fit here. And I'm not saying it's not, I'm just saying if we said it wasn't, but we wanted to expand on the fire station, then the planning board could put together a warrant article to the voters to vote to now have impact fees going forward. You couldn't use them going back to go towards that new project.
Yeah, you can't go back.
No, that's what I'm saying, but going forward. So if it was for 2028 to plan to potentially build a new fire station. I mean, police station, not fire.
Yeah,
Now, is there a time limit where impact fees have to be
6
used? Like
years.
6 years.
6 years, so after 6 years,
It goes back.
it goes back,
If it's
okay.
not used.
It's not used.
Which is what's kind of happening with the school, because the school was to build the addition to the school, and that every year it gets, or every time it's proposed, it gets voted down, so it hasn't been built, so those impact fees are kind
Right,
of.
what was the value? I don't know if people even realize what the value of it was. Like, hey, that's this much, but this much in impact fees is gonna offset it, and so this is the total number, I mean, more
I
information.
think the original, since I've been on the school board the first time, so the recent addition was proposed 2 years in a row. The first time was really bad timing during COVID. And so, but it was stated at deliberative session that impact fees could pay off the entire first year of interest on the loan. Like it would have, all of that could have been drawn down.
Of just the
And so,
interest
because
part
it-
of the loan.
Like the first year
Oh.
would be entirely paid off by impact fees because it goes away, right? And then would continuously be supported by impact fees going forward. But that was said at a school deliberative session, which is
Right,
maybe
so I
not
mean,
everyone
I thought the
receives
one
that
was like 5,
information. Yeah.
because the one proposal was like 5 million, so really impact fees was probably a small part of it, just to pay off the interest of the 5 million.
Well, so it was gonna pay,
Okay.
I believe, the first year, right? And then anything that's collected each year, just like with the fire department, could have been used at the end of
I
the
see.
year to pay down the bond. So to offset, that's all.
Like if you look at the budget for the fire department loan, you can see the payments, the total principal interest payments and then impact fees right below it that were used. And it's fixed
We
every
just
year
got
for like
that,
5 or
I
6
think I got it
years.
last week or something.
Yeah, we
That's the
just
first
got
time
it.
I've
Yeah.
ever seen something like
At
that.
budget committee.
Impact fees, we had a discussion at the Board of Selectmen meeting. 2 important points. It's in the law, it's not my opinion. To use impact fees, the cost for the structure, the infrastructure, has to have been caused by, the law says occasion. It's been read by the court as created or caused by new development. Number one. So if the school, I'm not picking on you, but if the school addition wasn't caused by new development, then it's not eligible. It's the law. I keep, New Hampshire Municipal Association, which is a great advocate for towns, has got many articles on it, and the court has decided many articles. I've got paperwork from attorneys, what a question. So it has to be caused by new development. How do you prove that?
Well, caused by new development, when it comes in, how many kids are in that new development are gonna go to school, so that's the cause?
That may-
I mean,
Well,
would
I
that make
think it would
sense?
be.
If it caused to build the addition, or was the addition caused by an expansion to K and also expansion of the curriculum? I don't know, that wouldn't be the cause. Secondarily, the impact fees, you mentioned paying off the first year. The second important qualifying point is the impact fees should be in proportion to the cost inflicted upon the town by that fee. So it's proportional, it's not 100%, it's proportional. 2 important points, if you go over the read.
I think the key thing is impact fees are not gonna pay for any big project.
Right, right.
Yeah.
They just help offset
Right.
the
Right.
cost. know.
That's what I'm getting, I really didn't understand it, so it's good information.
Yeah.
Is the-
It-
Is there any discussion to increase the impact fees that the town
There's
gets?
and I don't know exactly, there's a whole calculation that has to be done. Planning board reviewed it with a consultant, I forget how many.
6 years.
6 years ago, 2011.
Was it 5 or 6 years ago? Was it that long? So they do get reviewed every, like, so often, but, because there's calculations that you have to use and stuff. It's not like.
Right, you can't just pick an arbitrary number out of the
Arbitrary.
sky, right. I didn't think so, but I just
I
was
just
wondering
don't
with the cost
recall.
of
Yeah.
homes going up and inflation and everything else, whether or not those
Yeah, I don't
tax
recall
fees go up.
what the calculation is based off of, but yeah, it's it's
study-
pretty complex, and there needs to
The
be a
study gave 2 suggestions to the planning board in that study to adopt these,
right,
yeah, based on his assumptions.
right, yeah.
So, and the other thing I'm sure probably people know, the other thing to keep in mind is that with both the school and the town, there are also capital reserve funds that are funded to support
Right.
the funding of these projects. So that is where this, I know the school, and I'm sure the town as well, looks to this to also see how much we are putting into our capital reserve funds, because that's ultimately our easiest way to maintain kind of level funding, to have a reserve
Exactly,
fund
yep.
that is, planned for and accumulated, so when you need to purchase, they do it with the police cruisers, they have
Yeah.
a process in place. So, those more than impact fees are what I know the school really looks at for, funding of our projects.
So for the school, maybe.
This is, I'm not sure, I'm looking at this and wondering where this came from, because I don't believe this is last year's.
It's not. It has, because I think it's from a year ago.
I was gonna say,
that.
I was looking to see if it was from the previous years, because this is not accurate. So,
Is this the one? No, it's
still is.
2022.
I didn't bring my town report, I brought the
No, I
previous
mean, the only
year's town
things that's
report,
dated is
actually,
up there.
and not last year's. I took it out. So I can,
Although some of this stuff was done.
I was gonna say, I can go through some of this, because it was some of the things were reshuffled. For the school, we looked to our department heads or administration and said, they said, really, the flat roof over the gym and caf needed to be done sooner than we had anticipated because it was, out much farther. So, the flat roof, over the gym and cafeteria was completed, so that is midway down on this list, and it was 141,240 is what was in the CIP plan last year. That was moved to 2023. That flat roof and gym was completed in 2023. The update to the middle school science labs was done this year, and that was 71,870. So these are all very old numbers. I have maybe the year before.
This is the years before, probably, yeah.
And then the paving the road and sidewalks around the building was supposed to happen, but did not happen this year. So I imagine that's probably something that's going to go to, it's listed in this plan as 24.
Would you do that though after the?
So the issue with that has always been, because we're looking at some sort of build or something that would upset around the building, we're not going to pave it if we're going to do excavation. So it's a similar situation of, where do we put that in the plan? Obviously, this bond for the addition is did not happen in 2023, and the school is, again, looking at some RFIs for the possibility of doing some sort of modular build behind the school. And so we'll be looking at those on Wednesday, and then going forward, we wouldn't be looking to put it until the following year. And I don't know the time frame. It's been floated that it could be kind of done in a summer. But when you go to bond and you need to pay for things by bond, there's time constraints of when you can. So that I would assume would be going on to 2025 if there's a modular.
This sheet really needs to be updated.
This is not new, I don't know,
So
like I
this is
said.
at least a year, it's not the,
Did they,
I have the town, an email about the town. Oh, no.
CIP proposed by department, that one, is it
it's a one-pager that Ellie, I think,
So I don't know where this one came from.
it says October 2022 draft, so I guess maybe.
Yeah, that's the one we got sent, I
Yeah.
downloaded it.
We get sent, something else?
No, it's this sheet is what I got sent.
I think it was this one. It looks similar, but. Oh, yeah, it's this one. So this one, but that's not the one we have
That's
in
not,
our
that's not
packet.
in the packet.
But
I did email that one out, but then I know she.
So how different does the towns look from? Back to you. That's what, along with that narrative.
Megan, has the school started to work on the CIP?
So we have put in,
Okay.
so they were not aware of our process, and so I've given them all what our documents look like. So I'm, but I'm not sure if we'll see it Wednesday.
And Tim, do you know if,
No, I think we wanted to meet first as a committee and figure out kind of, again, because we have so many new members, what's the process. I mean, most of them have met with facilities committee to talk about a lot of that other stuff, but I think these things here.
because I just think from timing standpoint, I'll just, I think if you guys are meeting, you said the first December, so if we meet the second week in December, we can have all those by that time, you think we should finalize by like the beginning of January, the CIP, right? It's from a timeline. Yeah,
Well, it seems like, I mean, looking at the past couple of years, we're earlier than that.
well, actually, the past couple of years have been
Because the
late.
past several years have been very
okay.
late. So it was discussed last year.
Well, geez, I was using the past couple of years as a guide, thinking I was ahead of the curve. but-
It was discussed in last year's meetings, but again, we have different, town administrator is different, that we would like to start the process in the late summer, so almost before budgeting, so that this is in place. Because ultimately, again, this shouldn't really change, so unless there's a big needs really coming up, this should be fairly, rolling things forward, just adding the additional year, looking at funding, and that it could be done well before budget season. But we didn't have a VA at that time, so it was very helpful for the school.
Qualifies to be on the CIP.
So we were talking about that before you came in. We don't have any numbers. Like you were at the select board meeting, and we were talking about it. The only number we have is, what was approved by the voters last year, $40,000, to have somebody actually help us get quotes for different things and prioritize. Right now, the select board prioritize the back of the building. But we don't know what needs to be done back there. We need somebody to go back there. We know it needs to be cleaned out, but then beyond that,
That is the cap.
what's that?
That was a warrant article for funding.
That's what I'm thinking about, some of that facility stuff, unless we're gonna build something.
Or make an addition, 10,000 in 5 years, that's what it was, the 5 years was the other change, I think it used to be.
So that's, we need some input from them, because we need to have
Well,
Fire.
one of the other things we're talking about is that the Board of Selectmen needs to figure out what is the priority, because in this, that obviously everything on here can't be done,
It would be a dream.
it would be a dream,
It's-
right?
I think what we kind of alluded to was that in reality, what the facilities gonna end up on this CIP yet. The way that approaching is to first bring in the facilities person. So, and again, every year this gets, looked at. So probably next year, we're gonna see a lot more of that, what's in, built up. And, in the town report, we can put a note to that says, that's the process. So while we know we have that and that's a need, that isn't here in this year's, but it will be like, that we can, in the narrative, right? Just so people are aware that we.
Well, we really identify next, the chess piece of what we do next would be trying to encourage people to think about moving the station for this fire station. And I believe that would and then we would start putting so reluctant actually throwing more money in here, it's really
Not like if they wanted to spend $1,000 in CIP last year to put the audio video. Why would you put that into this room if it's gonna move over there? So.
something we can do is clean this out of this very hazardous situation. Back here, my interest, and I think the other people to get this out of here. And the former fire chief, and the present fire chief, that was not always the case. Efficient.
In the fire department,
There
how's
is an
it?
Not in,
They would add on.
Add on to
The
it.
fire
There's room to
department,
add.
when the fire department was built, it was built for expansion, it was built with the idea that police would safety complex.
Under the same roof.
I think
Well-
with the expansion, that's,
With the
Yeah.
expansion, yeah.
that's,
It's too bad it wasn't done in
Is
the
that
first
plan
place.
available?
I don't know, Gene, that was a long time ago, right?
That's the problem.
I'm sure it's
and they,
somewhere.
who knows if they went, how much detail they went into it.
It's somewhere in the back. That's what we're hoping is if somebody would take this job of a management person, they could start to look at records. And all this will be there. There'll be a scanner here. I think the first one is in January. So we can start. But, you know, we could just have it going for two straight weeks and then putting it in tomorrow and keep locking the other place because it's certainly not safe or secure yet there.
And I think a lot of it could be shredded. Once they start looking at the records and what they are. Yeah.
Slippery slope though, there's laws.
No, I know, but that's what I'm
We don't
saying.
have
You need
the
a
records
knowledgeable
committee.
person who knows what they're getting rid of.
Yeah, you can't just, go through, but if we have this from the state, borrow it on a regular basis, just keep,
Question is, what do you step into when you open one of those file cabinets?
Big old
Snakes,
rat.
I've heard snakes.
A big old rat. But I. Changing those, police and executive center, those seem to could be justified by growth.
If you look at I was looking up from the past town reports and look at the amount of usage of the recycling center, and how much waste that we've actually sent away and recycling, it's gone up over the past 5 or 6 years. The only year it was relatively flat was 2020 and 21, which we knew 2020 was a mess.
And that was so interesting because the former highway department head told us, and I wrote it down at the time, that at least 25% of residents in something said, and it was, oh, yeah, one of the people who didn't buy a trash pickup, and yet, the town does
Yeah, I thought that was an odd statement. I read that somewhere, I don't remember where I read it.
It's in the facilities.
Yeah, that's probably where I did read it.
Probably in the facility.
I just don't know
Yeah.
where you would get that number.
Yeah, I don't,
Right out of the back pocket, I don't know.
That's the thing.
But I was so surprised and I questioned about it, but I.
Unless you're sitting there counting cars and registrations, I don't know how you come up with the numbers.
I don't understand how he would come up with
Because
that.
some people use it once a month. We go every week.
Yeah, like how do you know?
Exactly, I mean, we have private trash pickup, because nobody in my house wants to haul trash. But I still use the recycling center for bulky waste and cardboard. And so I'm still there, but we don't deposit our trash there. I mean, he would have to have spoken to the people who do trash pickup in Nottingham, which there are several, although one, Waste Management no longer picks up in Nottingham. So Trash Busters would know, for instance, and whoever that other guy is, I forget.
Like I say, now, at the time, I just went, oh. And then we kind of moved on and,
But I think that if that's one of the things that, like, if we decide that on the CIP, that's not something I look at as moving the recycling center, like, if they mentioned moving it to Smoke Street, is NRA has plenty of, we talk about grants for the police department, stuff. I mean, they just built a nice facility up in Guilford, and they helped out a lot with
and the power of grant writing can't be underestimated, that's for sure.
finding somebody to do it.
Our brand new director of part-time interim library just got $15,000. Boom. Should be and so, I think we could do it, but I am wondering if it's time to change.
So, Tim, what is the select board's meeting and your sense on timing that you've? Since I'm not sure we can do much more with this
Yeah,
right
we've got
now.
Well, I'm not sure how much more this is. So, I mean, I think what I can do is ask Alan to get from the department.
Have a sense that you need to look at any of that at all? Like, look through the department heads' requests?
Is that what the select board?
Some of those requests before they come? I know the school board certainly
Yeah, I mean,
does.
I think they review it and stuff as well, but I don't, I think, I mean, if we can, I said the second week in December for the school board, but I mean, if we can, if the town can get stuff pulled together before that time, and get it to us, then we could meet before that time as well. I mean, it's not rocket science stuff that.
No.
A lot of it's probably what's already in here, an additional year, so we can get it ahead of time to look at it, so. There's not much more we can do tonight.
So do we want to set our next meeting in between now and then? I can see if Alan can request from the department heads that information. And then we'll get it to the first select board meeting in December. We do have one in November, but it's not regular.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the school board's meeting the first week in December, then if we can schedule
December
it.
6th, so like even the school board would like to prioritize along with administration.
Right.
Because we don't really have separate departments that have it, ours is kind of all the schools, so we are prioritizing in a board meeting. So I'd imagine it probably won't happen until
I think Tuesday, well, today's a Tuesday, works for everybody. Tuesday, 12 at 5:30.
It will work for me.
It won't work for you?
It won't work. I could do a Wednesday or
I could
at
do,
school.
we don't have school board, I wouldn't have it on the 13th, so I would be available on the Wednesday.
Actually, I can't do the 13th.
How do you guys know this stuff? I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow.
I have a
I don't want to
I-
see my
I-
calendar,
I have
so
a planning board meeting on Thursday.
And then Bob's gonna have budget committee.
I was gonna say,
Thursdays,
once we get to
sometime.
Thursdays and then later in December.
So, I mean, why don't we do it the 12th? I'll see if I can't change my. Yep.
All right, so the 12th at 5:30?
Yep.
Kelly sent out some
And what I'll do is I'll try to clean up, because I sent a ton of information when we first had set the meeting, and then I'll try to clean up to make sure that we have this spreadsheet.
Yes, so then
And I'll
I,
include you.
probably not until at least the 7th, the next day, will our BA have some of that, so to get it out to everyone. But as soon as, at least the school, I know we have this one, the school kind of has a separate spreadsheet and that gets added to the town when it's needed. So, sent out.
In the past, was that information sent to the committee prior to the meeting, so everybody had a time to look at it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
TA would take care of
yeah.
And that was your, Rick Lift, I don't know how many years you served on it, but the town administrator kind of really facilitated most of our CIP
Absolutely.
discussions here.
that first,
Yeah.
including budget numbers, where we were. Where are we with budgets?
Budgets?
Budgets, always over.
Year to date, or you talking about for next year?
There's a,
Year to date or next year?
Yeah, they're coming this week, so we were asking all that information, you know, what I mean, how much is left of
Kelly? No.
each. Usually the town administrator did that.
we said, I think we saw third quarter, that was tracking right about where it needed to be. Pretty much 75% of the budget.
Did you say we're not going to see the school
There's nothing going on warrant this year. So we just did, we did a request, an RFI for information about what generally a modular build, so it's a little.
RFI, request for
RFI,
information.
yes,
I-
yeah, I. So we did I instead of P
RFI.
because we knew we were not doing anything now, but we wanted to see if we could have a little bit more of a ballpark numbers so we could really make a plan, because we were changing from the traditional build to something hopefully cheaper. So once we look at those, hopefully they are cheaper as things go up every year. But yeah, so then I think our plan would be, if we move forward with that, that it would be on 2025.
This funds list department has to.
It's on the form.
Yes, there's a lot of empty.
School has it pretty covered, but
They do.
beyond
Yeah,
that,
well,
the
this-
rest of
yeah.
them are not covered at all.
The school board determines those, so I don't know what the process has been with either the Board of Selectmen or the. This is definitely, I
pretty
don't know if this is the one that went,
Maybe that's a draft.
I was
Who
gonna
knows?
say, it might be a draft.
All right, are we good?
Yeah, I think so.
Are we done?
Yeah, we're good. We're all set.
Motion to adjourn?
Make the motion. I'll second.
Take a motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is the.
6:20.
Yeah, that's what I'll email it out, but you can keep that.
All right, folks.
Actually open, it's like.